I'm here to talk to you today about CharityWatch's rating for Kindness Ranch Animal Sanctuary. Let me make sure that I'm getting that right. The official name is Kindness Ranch Animal Sanctuary. My name is Laurie Styron. I'm the CEO and Executive Director of CharityWatch. We're a national rating and watchdog organization founded in 1992. Okay, so Kindness Ranch Animal Sanctuary. It's based in Wyoming. Now, Wyoming isn't known for having the most robust charity oversight, so that might be the first potential issue, or maybe what led to, uh, maybe kind of what led to the concerns that we have that I'm going to talk to you about today if you are thinking of donating to this organization. So the first thing is this organization, it brought in about, we looked at the 2023 IRS Tax Form 990, including all schedules and attachments for this organization. And the first thing we noticed is that this charity reports that it did not have its financial statements audited by an outside CPA, independent outside CPA. Now, that's not unusual for extremely small organizations. Sometimes we come across organizations, they bring in $100,000 or maybe $300,000 a year. They work only locally in their own communities. It's hard for really small charities like that to afford an audit. And if they're only soliciting in their home state, they might not be required to have an audit to meet their reporting and accounting requirements under the law. However, when you're dealing with a bigger charity, and this organization took in about $1.9 million of contributions in 2023, most charities of that size do have an independent audit of their finances conducted each year. So this is unusual that this one didn't. Now, it could have a legitimate reason why it didn't. I'll get into why most charities of this size do have audits. The first reason is that if a charity is soliciting nationally, and a lot of charities of this size, and of this in this cause area, like helping animals, animal sanctuary, a lot of those types of organizations don't only solicit donations in their home state or locally in their city. Usually they're soliciting in multiple states or possibly even nationally. For organizations that solicit donations nationally, they're required to be registered in 41 jurisdictions across the United States, 40 states plus the District of Columbia, as a condition of being allowed to solicit donations within those states' borders. Now, many of those states, about half of them, require charities of a certain size, and this size charity would meet that threshold. They require these charities to have and submit to the state copies of their independent audited financial statements. For this reason, this is why it's unusual that this charity doesn't have one, given its size and cause area. So if you're a donor who's donated to this group and you've recently received a solicitation and you're not in Wyoming, we'd really appreciate hearing from you. We'd like to understand if this organization is meeting its filing requirements for soliciting you in whatever state you happen to be in, if it's not Wyoming. So here's some other concerns we have aside from the audit. Actually, first I should say this. What is an audit and why is it important? An audit is important because an independent CPA, an accountant outside of the organization itself, they are looking at the books from an objective perspective. They're following generally accepted auditing standards and conducting, tests. They're reviewing financial records. They're making sure that everything basically looks okay. I'm not using the, official accounting language here, but I'm just kind of saying, in general, in layperson's terms, they're kind of looking at significant transactions. They're making sure they're testing the charity's internal controls, making sure they have consistent and solid records for the financial transactions, separation of duties, things like this. Also looking for any unusual transactions, seeing that those are substantiated, that kind of thing. And when a charity doesn't have an audit conducted, especially a charity of this size, you're really just trusting whatever the charity tells you in its unaudited tax filing. It's IRS Form 990, which is not audited. You're really just trusting that whatever they're telling you in their tax filing is accurate. And you're just kind of taking the charity's word for it. So normally charities of this size have an audit. So as not to belabor that further, another concern we have is with the charity's governance. So this charity fails Charity Watch's benchmarks for governance and transparency, and let me tell you why. It fails transparency because it doesn't have an audit. Our transparency benchmark requires top-rated charities to post copies of their audited financial statements on their websites. And of course, I just talked to you about that. This charity doesn't have one. But from a governance perspective, this charity just does not have most of the normal policies in place that most charities have when they're following best practices. So they don't report regularly and consistently monitoring and enforcing compliance with a written conflict of interest policy. They report no when answering that question in their tax filing. Annual disclosure by officers, directors, and key staff of interest that could give rise to conflicts. They report no, that they didn't do that. They report that they don't have a written whistleblower policy or a written document destruction and retention policy. So those are all basic policies that charities have, most charities have when they're following best practices for governance. So they don't report providing a copy of the tax form to all board members prior to filing it with the IRS. And lastly, they don't report having at least 5 board members, independent board members. Now, the reason that's important is because when the board of directors is too small, there's not enough independence inherent on the board to ensure that the board members are making decisions that are in the charity's best interest. Having a small board doesn't necessarily mean anything bad is going on. It's just that the size of the board, if it's less than 5, it just increases the risk that there could be decisions being made that aren't in the charity's best interest just because there's not enough diversity of opinion. And if the votes, this organization has 4 people on the board, is it large enough for there to be dissent, right, among board members if someone doesn't agree with something? That's kind of an issue. It's an amplified issue when there aren't policies in place. So we have given Kindness Ranch Animal Sanctuary Charity Watch has given this organization a rating of ? Now, that indicates that we have specific concerns about its financial activities or its financial reporting. And so in this case, right, we just don't have enough information to confidently tell people, yes, we've looked at these finances. We have confidence based on the reporting that they're spending, raising and spending their money efficiently and effectively. There's just not the information there, and there's not, reliable information there, and there's not enough oversight there. We do have more information on this organization. So if you want to come to our website at CharityWatch.org, you can come to the charity's profile page, just type Kindness Ranch into the search function. You can find our full report on Kindness Ranch. So I hope that this information was helpful. If you're a past donor to this organization, if you're someone who is thinking of donating, we don't know, are the charities programs good? Are they doing good things in the world? Maybe. Sometimes charities that aren't doing such a great job with their financial reporting, sometimes they're still doing good work. The issue here is that we just don't know. So if you are a donor of this to this organization, or if you happen to be familiar with their programs, I encourage you to go to the board members and say, hey, can we get these, issues addressed? So that you can get a good rating from Charity Watch, and also just so people have the ability to hold the organization accountable for public dollars. So that's it for now. My name is Laurie Styron, and I am with Charity Watch, and I sure hope that this information was helpful. Thanks, everyone.